Hey there, it's Craig Ansell from the Career Growth Made Easy podcast. We are absolutely celebrating over here. We've hit 100 plus episodes. It's been a phenomenal run, and we're just getting started. To help celebrate, what better way than to look at some of the local Central Florida small businesses and celebrate with them, recognize those that have gone above and beyond, and turn their dreams into reality. For today's show, we're going to have Makenzie Oliver on. She's a former public school teacher turned business owner, and she successfully has changed career paths. Tune in after our intro to hear all about her and how her journey has been successful. If you have little ones at home and you're looking for an alternative school option, or if you're in the public school system and you're interested in change, do not miss this episode. Welcome back to the Career Growth Made Easy podcast. I'm your host, Craig Ansell. We are rocking into 100 plus episodes, and as a special treat, we thought we'd bring on some guests. What better way to celebrate than to look at Central Florida's accomplished small business owners? They have a lot of the traits that we talk about on the Career Growth Made Easy podcast. Passion, understanding their why, and just knowing that they have a vision, a dream, and they take the action. That's what's most important, the action to accomplish it. For today's show, we have on Makenzie Oliver, a former public school teacher turned business owner, and she successfully has changed career paths. We're going to talk to her today, find out about her why, what drives her, her passion, and what she's accomplished so far, and what's on the radar ahead. Welcome, Makenzie Oliver, to the Career Growth Made Easy podcast.
Thank you so much, Craig, and thank you for that wonderful introduction. I'm so happy to be here today.
Awesome. You're welcome. Well deserving of it. Can you tell us a little bit about your background and kind of what you're currently doing, maybe what your dream was and how you're starting to accomplish it?
Absolutely. Well, currently, I am the director and owner of an elementary micro school, which is a new term, and hence the word micro, meaning just a small school. And I run this out of my home, believe it or not, 12 students and an assistant. This was a dream of mine for many, many years, probably about 15 years ago, that I had this dream as I had started out teaching. And then I just decided that, I'll continue going down the career path of continuing elementary education, getting my master's degree. But I always had this feeling in my heart that I wanted education to look different and to feel different. And as much as I was so appreciative of the experiences that I had, I just felt almost a calling, so to speak, a sense that there was something else coming down the way. But of course, early on in my career, I did not know what that would actually look like. And here we are now. This was birthed out of the pandemic. I had been an instructional coach at a local elementary school, loved my career, Craig. Absolutely feeling just like the title of your podcast, Career Growth Made Easy. Oh my goodness. Being a teacher, we have so many opportunities to grow.
You really felt comfortable in the existing situation you were at. You were just so passionate about teaching. And at that time, you were doing it through the public school system, correct?
Absolutely. Yes. I was grateful for the opportunities. I had gotten my master's degree. I had been just a part of some really great projects and work in different school districts along the way over the past 16 years. But during the pandemic, actually, Craig, I'm going to take it back just a little bit.
Sure.
Prior to the pandemic, I had been feeling this stirring is how I would really call it, where I felt as if, as much as I loved what I was doing, being an instructional coach, teaching teachers, working in leadership, working with administration, knowing that there was the possibility that I would go down the track of administration, principal, even thought about getting my doctorate degree. But through that experience, I was feeling as if there was something missing. And in my work, really connecting with teachers, I felt as if there was a problem that was maybe not within my scope of of accomplishment, so to speak, in public school. And everybody's trying to work together, building such a beautiful opportunity for students. But I felt as if I needed to almost transition. And with that being said, I didn't know what I was going to do. I knew that I had this stirring to grow, but I didn't know what it would look like. And that's hard when you feel as if you're trying to burst out of something, but you don't know where you're going.
I mean,
And
that,
so
yeah, yeah. I'm sorry to interrupt you. It's just such an amazing story as you're telling me this. You loved what you did. You felt accomplished. You even, I think some of the words you used, you had a vision, potentially the next step in leadership into, administrative or, potentially the principal of a school system down the road. You could see that. But yet you still had this, I guess, tugging or stirring, you said, that just kind of pulled on you and said, kind of either do something more or do something different. This is amazing, Makenzie.
yeah, Craig, I appreciate you saying that. You're right. And it's interesting because a lot of people, when I said I'm going to pursue something different, yet I didn't know what it was, many people were actually very astonished. They had known the path that I had been on for several years. I was a part of many professional developments and enjoyed that. I loved teaching through many types of conferences and cohorts, and really felt that was an extreme passion of mine as well. But it was interesting because I couldn't quite put my finger on it. And a lot of people would look at me and say, but you're so good at this. Where are you going to go? What are you going to do? And I was like, I don't know. That's so scary. And the truth is, Craig, I wasn't even financially prepared in a sense to let go and to change something new. But whatever that reason was, that stirring that I had, I didn't want to let it go, but I felt as if I needed to let it go because I wasn't going to be able to grab on to what was calling me. And I know that might seem so, you know, big and far out there for so many people, but I do believe that for some people, they leave out of frustration. They leave out of guilt, maybe in their motherhood, that they feel like they can't balance it all. For me, I felt I needed to leave for something that was beyond my scope, but I couldn't quite put my finger on it.
I love your story, and it's really hard to talk with you because I just want to sit back and listen, like take over the podcast, Makenzie. You just have such a beautiful story, but I do want to interject, so excuse me. I heard a lot there in those last few sentences. And I'm just smiling. You can almost hear my smile over the airwaves. But one of the things that caught me was you didn't want to leave out of a sense of frustration. And one of the phrases that we use with career coaching is you don't want to run away from something. You want to run to something. And you were working on defining your to, which is very interesting. So you weren't running from something, but what you were running to was kind of unknown. And so I really applaud you for having the confidence, the strength, but I think also, I think also faith in some aspect does play into this, because that calling, that little voice or tugging of your heart, as we say, right? Something in there was saying, trust me, it's okay, or you've got this, right? And that's absolutely amazing.
Thank you so much. And I do want to just build off that a little bit, that I had felt specifically one time I had been just really wrestling with, where am I going to go? This has been my gift. My gift is in teaching. And I felt as if it was being taken away from me in a sense. So there was a lot of emotions, Craig, that had went into this prior to actually stepping away. I had really immersed myself in personal development, probably for about 4 years prior to leaving. So in my years earlier in my career as a teacher starting out, I was really focused on developing myself professionally, spending my summers in professional development, spending my summers reading the books, spending my weekends reading about how to keep students engaged, reading about how to close the achievement gap. And then I started taking a shift later on, probably when I was about 33 years old. I had already had 2 daughters and was really feeling a sense of, where is my life going? And what legacy do I want to leave for my family? And that's really the why. that's the why. And that's a big why. That's a lot of digging and uncovering and soul searching and prayer and reading and listening to mentors. You have an incredible podcast episode dealing with mentors, and it's episode number 70. Mentors help you grow. Mentors in the forms of podcasts, mentors in the forms of books, mentors in the form of just immersing yourself in connection and collaboration with others. And so from those experiences of personal development, really, this really comes from personal development that I realized I have to let go. And I remember walking and feeling and hearing the voice, because I was really tugging with, I'm going to leave my retirement. I'm going to leave my steady income. I'm going to leave my role as a leader, and I'm going to go where? I don't know. And I heard in my spirit one day on a walk, I specifically remember where I was, and it was, you'll never know unless you let go.
Wow. All right. One more time. Say it again.
You'll never know unless you let go.
Okay. Tear moment there. Okay.
And a lot of times we want to grab onto what's next. We need to see it. Where am I going? I need the map. I want to see where the final destination is. And I believe that that's what keeps us stuck. And you also have another great episode, number 60, feeling stuck in your job, but you don't know how to actually get unstuck or where you're going to go. And because we don't have the answers, we will stay there. And we miss an opportunity.
Wow. There's just so much there. It's going to be a lot to unpack. I'm probably going to miss some of it. I'm going to have to go back and listen to my own show. I'm going to have some more questions for you. My God, this is amazing. I'm just tears of joy, honestly. To all my listeners out there, I'm a little bit speechless. Makenzie's an absolute rock star, but wow. Okay, so you mentioned a few of my episodes. Thank you for looking at that and tying that into the conversation. I really appreciate that for our listeners that aren't familiar with all the episodes. We have 100 plus out there to choose from, and hopefully it touches at least someone's heart and helps them in a guided direction.
Yes, and you know what I love about your podcast, Craig, is that it's really great to binge listen to, and you keep it very just attainable for each of us, and you give us really great golden nuggets. So thank you for doing that, because there have been so many that I have been able to walk away with, and I'm just so grateful.
Oh, I really appreciate those comments. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
There's a variety of choices out there for listeners, from podcasts to, videos, YouTube, and all these other things, and dozens of forms of social media now. And I thought about when I started exercising at work, walking and then running around our trail, which is nearly a mile, and I was getting bored. So one day I was like, oh, look, I could play some music on my cell phone or get some earbuds. So I did that, and I got bored I was thankful, but I got bored with the content I had, the recorded songs on my phone. Then I got turned on to Spotify and other things. And, some of the listeners may laugh. It's like, Craig, where you been, hiding under a rock, Right. But I'm way big into tech. I'm really strong with technology, building circuit boards, electronic design. I mean, that's my nature. That's my degree, electrical engineering. But I don't always catch on to the latest trends right away. Like I had older cell phones for quite some time, but hey, at least I did have a cell phone. Exactly. So where am I going with this? Not to throw ourselves off track. And so after that music, I found Spotify and other things to play music. That was great, but that got a little boring, unfortunately, for me, while I was trying to push myself and do mile after mile and get healthier and longer distances. And then I got turned on to podcasts, and I was like, this is amazing. It's absolutely, some of these podcasts out there have terrific content, and most of it's free, unless of course, you subscribe to a premium channel that has specific teaching or traits about it. And I said, my God, I can fill myself up with podcasts. And then after a while, to your point, Makenzie, said, I have a specific message. I have something to say. Maybe someone's willing to listen to me. And that is how my show started. And where I came up with the time duration for the show was simply, it takes, I would guess most people, not all, 15 to 30 minutes to get to work each day. And so I targeted that time frame for most podcasts. And I was just thinking something consumable and something that would provide value.
Yes, very much so. Thank you for doing that. Yes. And you're right. Podcasting, podcasting has such an incredible opportunity for people to get professional and personal development for free. And that is really, to be honest with you, Craig, through listening to podcasts, I would say that's where I experienced the most exponential growth for certain.
Oh, that's fantastic. I love to hear that. I love to hear that. And I know our listeners are loving to hear that as well as they're tuned in. You know, I looked at some of the notes I took while you were talking, and you had talked about personal development, but it seems like you didn't just start developing when you felt that tugging, but just as, I coined myself a lifelong learner. It seems like you had been doing personal development for 4 years or so prior to the decision to leave. So you're probably someone, and I don't want to speak for you, you're probably someone that just has a hankering for learning and betterment and improvement, and like me, wanting to share that with others. Would that be accurate?
100%. I mean, that's exactly what I wanted to really broadcast today is the importance of learning, career growth, personal growth, professional growth, family growth, relational growth. It all comes from learning and just being able to invest not only your time, but to be honest, Craig, it does at times require effort, or every time it requires effort, but time, your energy, and also sometimes your money. Because it's, to be honest with you, some of the best growth that I've developed has come in the form of reading books, signing up for different programs, hiring coaches, because I knew that in order to get where I needed to go, I needed someone who had pioneered the way. And I think that that's so important that we really take the opportunity, and it doesn't have to be a lot of money. You know, you can spend $10 on a really great book that can transform your life, but also the time that you can invest in yourself. And I think that you will find the most incredible rewards if you do this and you immerse yourself in the process of learning.
Oh no, I completely agree with you, and I know my listeners do too. And there's just, like you said, so many avenues, so many fashions to go. I happen to be someone that, while I do read PDFs and online documents, I still actually enjoy either a hardcover or a softcover book. I'm someone that likes to purchase them, even if they're used books. I will mark them up, highlight them. Yes, I know that takes a lot of time and effort, but I go back to those books year after year, episode after episode for reference, because I just see things differently from one author to another, even on the complete same topic, right?
Absolutely.
So with all this discussion we've had, which has been outstanding, Makenzie, I'm just so proud of what you've accomplished and your story and your message. If we go back to talking about what you're doing on a daily basis, and you said it was a micro school, is that correct?
Oh, yes, it is.
Okay.
This is so fun, Craig. Okay. So I had left public school not knowing what I was going to do. When I told my principal that I was leaving, it was the hardest decision. It was so painstakingly emotional. And of course, he and the assistant principal and the assistants that I had, they were all asking, "What are you going to do?" And I said, "I don't know, but I know that I'm going to figure it out. I know that God's going to lead me. He's going to tell me." And what I did is I did not immediately build a school. This was in 2019. I left and I thought, I'm going to spend just a few months, even though I was scared to death about my retirement, scared about my money. I had a little side business that was going to help generate some income, but my husband was also starting a painting business, and I knew that he needed my help. So we were going to spend about 6 months trying to work out the kinks, but I knew that I needed to not have a lot of distractions. And so for about 6 months, we really immersed ourselves in getting his business started and trying to figure out where I was going to go. And then boom, here comes the pandemic in 2020.
Perfect timing.
Yes. And so I was feeling as if, okay, I had always had this dream that I wanted to teach students from my house. But I felt the only experience that I knew of was people who had had preschools out of their house. And I was like, I don't want to start a preschool. Now, I did earlier when my daughter was younger. I thought, oh, this will be perfect. I'll stay home. I'll be a stay-at-home mom. Plus, I'll be able to teach. Plus, I'll be able to have other children with me. But we lived in Missouri at that time, and it wasn't feasible for our family.
Okay.
And that's okay because I was able to get my master's degree, had so many incredible experiences. But then when the pandemic happened and I was, like the rest of the world, thrown into homeschooling, I was thinking, oh my gosh, this is so awesome. I love homeschooling my daughters, and I really don't want them to go back into public education because I already know how taxed our teachers are. They are exhausted already. They are already frustrated with the system. Now, with all of the mandates, with all of the things that are coming down the line for teachers to have to follow suit with, I was concerned that this was going to be even harder for our students. And I didn't want my daughters to be a part of it. And to be honest with you, I was just loving being home and being with them. So I thought, well, I wonder, does any teacher ever left teaching and became a homeschool mom? So that's what I started Googling. Teachers leaving teaching and becoming homeschool moms. And I'm thinking, I could not find anybody. It was as if moms knew that they wanted to be homeschool moms. And so they just did that their whole life, but you never really see people jumping ship.
Huh.
And that's what I was looking for. I wanted to see who's jumped this ship before, who's left this system, so to speak, private school or public school, and said, I'm going to start this route of teaching and just teaching my own children. And I literally could not find anybody.
You're trying to figure out somebody's had to have done this before,
Yes.
or am I going to be that crazy pioneer out there, right?
Right. And I kept digging, started listening to homeschool podcasts. I'm thinking, homeschool? I mean, I know about it, but I never, ever thought I would see myself doing that. Now, again, remember I had said I had always wanted to teach students from my home, but I always thought it had to be preschool because that's all I had ever known.
Right, right.
Well, from this experience of homeschooling in the pandemic, I just dug into more research. If I homeschool my daughters, I don't want to do it alone. I wonder if anybody else wants to homeschool their children, but they can't. Could they hire me to, quote unquote, homeschool their children? And, I had to look into the legalities. I had to look into what did I need to be a private school? Did I need to be a non-for-profit? How can I get around having to do that? Because there's a lot of red tape. There's a lot of long processes, a lot of forms. You have to wait sometimes years before you can get pre-approved to do that. And so what I found was that if I had a private tutoring business, I could, in the state of Florida and across many other states, if you're a certified teacher, you can offer instruction to homeschooled families. Now, the issue that I had, Craig, is that I didn't know any homeschooled families,
Okay.
Other than just everybody having to homeschool during that time of the pandemic.
So your idea is slowly grabbing traction. You're seeing a light for yourself and for your children to be homeschooled, but you were looking for more to get, a bigger class size and get more interaction and share your light, share your passion with others. But you're lacking the next step. So you kept digging. I'm feeling this, right?
Mm-hmm. Oh, yes. I'm making phone calls. I'm trying to figure out who's ever homeschooled before. I'm trying to figure out what's it like to have a private tutoring company. How many kids can I have at my house at the same time? How many do I set up as an LLC? Is this even legal? Do I have to get insurance? Do I have to get liability? I have a pool at my house. What happens in that situation? How many hours can I teach these children without making it look like a daycare? So there were so many facets that I had to research. And a lot of times, that will stop us. It feels too big. It feels too overwhelming. If you don't know anyone who's ever gone through it before, you feel as if you're alone. And let's face it, who wants to walk through the wilderness alone?
Well, yeah. And I would like to stop you yet again. Excuse me.
No problem.
I was going to use that word. So wait a minute, Makenzie, we're on Career Growth Made Easy, and this story you're telling, oh my gosh, it's so overwhelming. You must have had 8 or 10 things in there just for openers, phone calls, research, kid limit, LLC, insurance, etc., right? I have a pool. What do I do about that? But while you were doing that, I noticed it wasn't out of being derogatory. You weren't complaining. You had a happiness in your voice. You had I don't know, a positivity about you while you were telling about these challenges. These didn't defeat you. They were challenges, and I have a feeling you've overcome them. Am I correct?
I have. And, a lot of times I actually work with teachers now as well, helping them build their own micro schools because it has become so successful. And with that being said, a lot of teachers, I see their pain and they're going, is this legal? Where do I start? How do I get the kids? How do I get enrollment? Oh my goodness, I can't even tell you how scary that was in the face of a pandemic, trying to figure out who is going to catch on to this. How am I going to tell people in the midst of everyone having to wear mask, being afraid to go to the grocery store, being afraid to touch the carts without having to Lysol them, and now they're going to send them to my house. And there were a lot of hoops that I had to go through with that. Many parents asking, are you going to have students wear masks? Are you going to have students set apart? And I thought, this is what's going to make me different. I have a small enough setting. I know that there's a lot of fear about students going back into school with the, social distancing, the wearing mask. I don't want my child to go back into school having to face all of that. Not only is education changing now our whole lifestyle is changing, and I want to keep some type of normalcy, but most importantly, I want to keep the joy of learning. I feel like there was so much fear. And our world is consumed with fear. And so the most important thing that I had during that time was to keep a sense of safety, a sense of belonging, and a sense of we're going to make it through this. And so there were families, of course, that, I had to set it up to where I only wanted 6 children the first year because I wanted to keep it small. I had never done this before. And, this isn't preschool. This is school. I'm teaching your child how to read, how to do multiplication, division, how to write. I take this very seriously, and it's integrity. This is my name behind it. And this is my joy to do it. But we're not here to play, to play all day in a sense, but I also wanted our children to have that luxury. So I've learned so much in being able to have this experience. The students arrive at 8:30 in the morning. We have a beautiful start to our day of children being able to play outside. That was very close to my heart. I wanted children to have the space and the freedom to be themselves and to experience our beautiful nature. And then because we have a small class size, now I do have 12 students. Can you believe it? We doubled the enrollment for the next year. I still do it out of my house.
That's awesome.
I'm like, how many more kids can I fit in here? Just because I've thought about, Craig, career growth made easy again. Let's talk about this. I've thought about, do I need to go rent a space? I could easily go rent a church. I could easily go rent a building. I could easily go purchase something, that would give us more room. But I'll be honest with you. I don't want to be like everybody else. I like being set apart. And I love being able to offer families something that's so unique and different.
Unique, different, personalized, absolutely.
Yes. And so we learn, every child has pretty much their own personalized path, which allows them to grow beyond the scope of what I ever thought could ever possibly happen. I have multi-age children. Then at noon, we go to lunch at the park. We come back. I have an amazing assistant who helps me through my days because, 12 students, it doesn't seem like a lot whenever you are teaching in public school and you have 20 to 30 kids, but I'm in a house now. So it is a little bit different because we're separated in a sense,
well, right.
in different rooms. And
Yeah, I agree with you completely. But what I think we forget, and I have to rewind back to my school days, but we had periods or classes that would shift, and you'd be transitioning in hallways to different setups. You'd see different teachers. There were break periods. You're doing all this as a single licensed teacher. It's all
Yes.
on you, but in a positive way because you use the word joy. You keep the joy of learning. So by you offering the joy of learning to those students, that personalized teaching and coaching and being with them, you keep the fun in it because you're looking at education in a different light. It's not something, let's say, that's mandated and thou must do or else, or you're going to fail, right? You're keeping it energized and positive, and that's how joy of learning translates into fun at school. So it really is possible, it sounds like, Makenzie, to have fun at your micro school.
Oh, it sure is. And yes, I know that many people will say it is all on you. How does that work? You know, there's been times it hasn't been easy, Craig. You know, growth is is a beautiful part of our journey as we build a business, but also too, it it can be difficult at times, but there are beautiful parts where we can make it easier. And I believe that the easy part comes when we surrender and we're vulnerable enough to say, I need help. And I
Oh,
love having an assistant. And I found that through building my own business, Craig, outsourcing has become my greatest endeavor.
wow,
I'm
that's
telling you.
amazing. That's amazing. Yeah, so you've touched on a lot there. Boy, there's so much to talk about with you. It's really fantastic to have you on, Makenzie. I appreciate your time. One thing that's come to mind about these dreams that you've realized and celebrating you and celebrating Central Florida small businesses that have achieved a goal, there's a word that I've used with some of my prior podcasts, and it's a BHAG, BHAG, and it's big, hairy, audacious goal. Okay.
Yes.
So a lot of people, when you're in management meetings in larger corporations, what's your BHAG or team? What are we going after today? And why I bring up BHAG, big, hairy, audacious goal, is that there's something that was unsettling to you, but in a positive way, like a stirring. Maybe that was that hairy, big, hairy, audacious goal, but you didn't know what it was. It was still forming. And that was early on in our podcast when we were discussing today. And you slowly started to form that and mold that like clay. And then after 4 years of development, you've moved on into a different situation. And I think that's completely amazing that you've been able to accomplish that. But the biggest part about all this is you're imparting and embracing your knowledge, your joy for learning to children and helping them in a non-traditional way that gets them out of the public school system where there are, of course, mandates and other rules and things that are required from state to state. But you've kind of modified your situation to make it personalized. And I think that's absolutely fabulous what you're doing, Makenzie.
Thank you so much. And, you know, I really not only is it such a joy to work with the children, but it's such a joy to be able to have relationships with the parents because I get to see the parents every day, wave to them. How are you? So and so's doing so great. Oh, I loved what they did yesterday. And then they pick them up at the end of the day. I really believe parents appreciate that in a world where for a couple of years, we've been so afraid to connect with people. We need that human connection. And I believe that parents are not only appreciative because they see the growth in their children and they see how much individualization and personalization their children receive and just their children being able to be outside and see learning beyond four walls. But I think also it's so critical for parents to be a part of their children's learning and they actually get that through this experience. So I appreciate all that you have had to say about that, Craig. And it has been a journey. And when I think about my big, hairy, audacious goal, it's, it is. And I remember hearing that a lot and through professional development. And gosh, I mean, it makes me take a deep breath. Like, what is my next big, hairy, audacious goal? And that is, I, I want to see more of this type of learning experience, not only across our state, but across our country and even into other countries where learning can be a joy, where learning can be so personalized and so eccentric to our students. I want to see teachers, I want to see their spark and their love for education just be lit on fire again.
You've got me, besides smiling here, you've got me on the edge of my seat. So, with what you've done, and I haven't taken the time because I guess the story's just been so incredible. You've been so engaging, Makenzie, that I forgot halfway through to plug your micro school at home.
No, that's okay.
But I definitely want to get that out on the airwaves. But if somebody wants to do what you're doing, if you've sparked some interest in them, some fire, and they said, I want to be like Makenzie, I want to be that homeschool teacher, that micro school teacher, but she listed so many challenges, so many struggles, but in her voice, I still had that belief that she was going to succeed. She was going to make it through that rocky moment where you win the fight, right? How are people
Yes.
going to be able to do that?
Well, a lot of people do not realize that it's just within their reach. And it's so interesting because I use the word pioneer. I definitely believe that God had me go through this in perfect timing, Craig. This was perfect timing that I thought 15 years ago I would have a school out of my home. God said not yet. And then here comes the pandemic and here I am at home with my daughters and I was like, "Oh my gosh, I was made for such a time as this. This
Perfect.
is what I was actually always supposed to do."
Perfect.
And then through this experience, many people were like, you know, "Oh my gosh, I would love to be able to teach like that. I would love to be able to stay home with my children." And they don't realize that there's an opportunity. And not just in the state of Florida, but in other states, I help teachers build their own micro schools, and not just teachers, but what people do not realize is that even as a parent, you can build your own micro school. And a lot of people say, "Oh gosh, I don't know if I want to do that full time every day." That's okay. It's about personalizing it for your teacher heart. And so I have a podcast, Teacher Let Your Light Shine, where I help parents and teachers begin their own micro school or homeschooling business, which can take the form of a learning pod, which could take the form of private tutoring. It's really about taking teachers and saying, "I know that you're struggling. I know that you're burnt out. I know that you want something different. But before you leave this entire career, before you say, 'I'm done teaching,' can I just take you for a moment and rekindle your flame for teaching and help you build a business that lights your teacher heart on fire?" And what is that through? Is it through building a private tutoring business where you either do group tutoring or personalized tutoring? Is it through building a learning pod as a mom where you're already homeschooling your children? You need to make some extra income. So let's go ahead and let's set up 2 to 3 days a week where you can have children over your house and you get to teach what's engaging and what's fun and creative for you. If you're a teacher and you're thinking, I want to leave, I want to teach my children from home, but I don't want to do it alone. I want them to have socialization. I want them to have friends. Let's build a micro school. And teachers actually find that they make more of an income building a school and they have more enjoyment in doing so than what they ever thought they could possibly do by staying and building a business, let's say in private school or in public school. You're not really building a business, but you're helping to build their business when you could branch out and build your own business and make it the way that you want to make it.
Yeah, that sounds absolutely fantastic. And I really appreciate you sharing that. And what I heard was your podcast, Teacher Let Your Light Shine. Is that correct?
That's right.
Right. And that's with Makenzie Oliver. I have to tell you, Makenzie, taking a look at my watch here, this has been an absolutely fantastic experience being on with you. And I know our listeners are really going to enjoy the discussion, not only to get to know you, a local Central Florida small business that has become successful and is growing with that stirring inside you, and you're looking to continue to challenge your BHAG, your big, hairy, audacious goal. But now what we know is that not only can people ask you, "Hey, Makenzie, do you have some seats open for next school year so that I can have my kids at your micro school because I'm willing and interested in wanting to change it up and get some personalized, fun instruction for my child." But not only that, what you've offered today, if there's any educational folks out there listening, teachers, parents even, like you mentioned, that are wanting to do something different, and they might have that BHAG tugging at them. Maybe a micro school, I think you said a homeschool, where they could teach their own children, or possibly some of the neighborhood kids as well, so that there's a larger group environment, and that's just not, a small shut down environment with just their brother and sister, let's say, but having other kids for socialization. You're saying that's all possible. And I really wouldn't have known much about that if you hadn't shared that towards the end. I figured, though, there had to be some silver lining for others, because if you were able to unlock this and come on this show, and we can honor you for your accomplishments and what you do for our children, there's got to be a way this can be duplicated and shared with others. And you hit it on the head.
Thank you so much, Craig. Yes, it is a silver lining, and there's so much that can be accomplished if you really just sit back and you give yourself the time and the creative space to say, what makes this authentic for myself? How can I embrace my authenticity and really show up and serve, and be able to do so in a way that just lights me up? And that's where Teacher Let Your Light Shine came through. And my school is Lighthouse Learning. So, and I actually never even thought about this, Craig, but they both have the word light in it. I mean, I don't know. What do you think about that?
There's some kind of message there. I'm not sure what it is. We might have to have you on again to figure that out. I'm a little slow sometimes. Oh, so one more time. We got to the end of the podcast episode, but please give us your information, and I'll make sure we stay on after the recording's over, Makenzie, and that we document your two contact points. One for your homeschool, your micro learning, which is Lighthouse Learning Micro School, and then the other is going to be Teacher Let Your Light Shine. So go ahead and give us all the details on that. I'll sit back and listen. One about your personal school, and then one about replicating this for others out there to get out of the 9-to-5 rigmarole.
All right, here we go. So for Lighthouse Learning, that is my actual micro school, and I partner with parents and help them teach their children, and they can either choose to have their child come to Lighthouse Learning full-time Monday through Friday, or they can come part-time, and I help them with their academics, but we also go on field trips, and we do so many wonderful things such as cooking and crafts and outdoors activities, and just enjoying the parts of their childhood that we're so grateful for.
Do you have an age limit? Because I might want to come over.
I know, golly. Hey, I do have a lot of adults come over. Yes. We have a lot of volunteers, and we have people who come in and be guest speakers for us. But that is Lighthouse Learning Micro School. And we have a website, lighthouselearningmicroschool.com. And we also have a Facebook page, Lighthouse Learning Micro School. Now, if you're on the other end and you're a teacher or your parent and you're thinking, oh, wow, I would love to be able to offer this type of environment or tutoring or just even a learning pod, micro school, full-time, part-time. I don't know. This seems so interesting. I would love to be able to showcase my gifts and my talents and make money at the same time. Then you can follow me at my podcast, which is geared for parents and teachers, at Teacher Let Your Light Shine. Don't think that just because it says teacher that you have to be a teacher, because we are all teachers to our youth. So that's Teacher Let Your Light Shine. We have a Facebook page, Teacher Let Your Light Shine. We've got an awesome Facebook group, Teacher Let Your Light Shine. And we have a website, www.teachersletyourlightshine.com.
Okay, that sounds fantastic. Podcast, Teacher Let Your Light Shine. We've got Facebook group. And then the one difference on your website is Teachers Let Your Light Shine. Is that correct?
That's right.
Perfect. Makenzie, it has been an absolute pleasure having you on. I'm very thankful for your time, for getting to know you, to just the way you serve our community and how you're serving parents and children out there, helping them grow with that joy, keeping learning fun, but then also surprising us at the end with a treat. Just saying, hey, if you're a teacher, if you're a parent, if you're interested in doing something different, there is a way to do that. So just thanks for that bonus right at the end. And we'll put links for all the listeners. We'll put links on our show notes for the podcast. We'll put them out on social media, as well as on my website, craigansell.com. So that way you can always get a hold of us or any of our podcast guests as we move forward, celebrating 100 plus episodes. Once again, Makenzie, thank you so much for being on.
It's been my pleasure, Craig. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. So we're going to close our celebratory episode with Makenzie Oliver, who's turned her dream into a reality, a former public school teacher turned business owner. I've been Craig Ansell, your host of the Career Growth Made Easy podcast. Thank you for listening. You can always find us at Craig Ansell, Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram, and our website, craigansell.com. We'd love to have some feedback and comments on our social media about these guest podcast shows. Let us know what you think. Let us know what you learned about our guests. And if you have any questions, we can funnel them back to Makenzie. She'd love to have you as well. And possibly we'll have Makenzie back. I think there was just so much to talk about. We couldn't address it all in one show. Everyone, have a wonderful week ahead. God bless you. We'll talk next week. Thanks for watching. If you've enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe to our channel. New episodes every Monday. In the meantime, why don't you follow us on social media at Craig Ansell on Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram. To book a coaching appointment, download our free guides, or join our email list, check out the links in the description below.